She did not yell. She did not slam a door, throw a glass, or send that long final message you were half expecting, the one you could break apart line by line and fight back against. There was no big scene, no dramatic goodbye, no last attempt to force you to understand her pain. She simply stopped. And that silence hits harder than any scream ever could. It is a thick, heavy quiet that settles into every part of your life where her laughter, her warmth, and her care used to live. At first, you may have confused it with peace. You may have thought you finally won. Maybe you told yourself she had cooled down, that the tension was over, that things were finally easier. But this is not the silence of surrender. It is the silence of someone whose heart has reached the end of the road. It is the sound of a woman who has nothing left to explain to a person who never truly listened. And that is why it feels so cold. That silence says more than every fight you ever had. It marks the exact second she stopped believing you were worth the energy it took to keep trying. Stay with me here because this part matters. You spent so long watching her fight for the connection that you began to think effort was just who she was. You got used to her fixing things. You got used to her returning, softening, staying. You thought her heart would always refill itself. You treated her love like sunlight, like air, like something that would show up every day whether you earned it or not. But you were wrong. While you were getting comfortable, she was reaching the edge of her endurance. And by the time you finally feel that drop in your stomach, that strange fear that something is truly broken, it is usually already too late. While you were waiting for her to get over it, she was quietly moving out inside her mind. Piece by piece, she was taking down the pictures she hung in her heart. She was removing your place in the future she once built so carefully. She was not just pulling away. She was disappearing from the version of life where you still mattered at the center. And when that shift happens in a deeply feeling woman, it is not a mood swing. It is not a rough week. It is a full internal shutdown of everything she used to pour into you. If you can feel that chill now, if something in the room feels different, pay attention. For many people, the warning signs are already gone by the time they notice the damage. The world often makes the same mistake with women like her. It sees patience and calls it weakness. It sees kindness and assumes there is no strength behind it. In a culture that worships noise, pride, and control, softness gets judged as fragile. People think she is easy to push, easy to ignore, easy to take for granted. But they miss the truth completely. Her softness was never weakness. It was discipline. It was power under control. It takes real strength to stay open in a world that keeps teaching people to shut down. She is the one who feels the energy of a room before anyone says a word. She hears what you say, yes, but she also hears what you hide. She notices the grief behind your smile, the tension inside your jokes, the cracks in the voice that says, "I'm fine." She knew you were hurting long before you admitted it. For years, she was not just beside you. She was carrying emotional weight you did not even know you were dropping. She was holding up parts of your life while her own heart was quietly wearing out. She was your support system in ways you probably never named. When your confidence dropped, she was the one reminding you who you could become. When your world felt dark, she was the one holding a light steady enough for you to keep walking. She sat with your wounds. She absorbed your stress. She took in your anger, your confusion, your silence, your carelessness, and still tried to love you with gentleness. All the while, she was being cut in small ways that you either did not notice or did not think mattered. And that is where the real damage begins. Not always in one betrayal, but in the 1,000 tiny moments where she felt unseen. You leaned on her so long that you forgot she had limits. You began treating her like a background resource, like power in the wall or water from a tap, something you notice only when it stops flowing. This is the hard truth people learn too late. Consistency is not a promise. Just because she forgave the last time does not mean she will survive the next one. Just because she stayed through neglect, excuses, broken words, and emotional distance does not mean she signed up for a lifetime of it. You kept drawing from her every day. Her empathy, her peace, her time, her emotional labor. And you never stopped to ask if she was empty. But every well has a bottom. Every battery runs down. And when a woman like this reaches that final point, something changes inside her in a way that is very hard to reverse. It is like a switch flips for survival. She does not just become tired. She becomes clear. The version of her that lived for your approval begins to die. She may look the same. She may speak in the same voice. But the woman who once bent herself into softer shapes just to keep the peace is no longer standing there. And this is where it gets deeper. People often make one huge mistake with a woman who leads with her heart. They think her patience means she has no other choice. They think her grace means she can be stretched forever. They see her offering understanding again and again, and instead of respecting it, they test it. They start believing her softness is a cushion for their bad behavior, a safe landing place for every careless act. But her kindness was never proof that she lacked power. It was proof that she had enough power to stay tender without becoming cruel. That takes courage most people do not have. She was not gentle because she was scared of conflict. She was gentle because she was emotionally brave. She knew how to hold pain without throwing it back. She knew how to understand people without excusing harm. She knew how to stay warm in cold places. For years, she was fighting silent battles for both of you. She picked up on sadness no one spoke about. She sensed the imbalance before anyone else admitted it. She did not just love you. She carried the emotional structure of the connection. Think about that. She was the foundation under moods, under chaos, under your moments of failure and insecurity. She kept reflecting your potential back to you when you were not even living up to it. She showed you a better image of yourself while taking the pressure of your storms into her own body. She sat in the dark with you, tending to what hurt in you, while her own wounds stayed invisible in the background. Over time, you got used to that, too used to it. You began breathing in her care the way people breathe air, without wondering what it costs to keep that air clean. You assumed she would stay because she always had. But routine is not the same as forever. Presence is not a contract. And when her inner reservoir finally hit empty, the whole system changed. When that happens, she stops being the mirror that shows you your best self and becomes the wall that shows you the truth. She no longer reflects your hopes. She reflects your actions. She stops translating your behavior into kinder meanings just so she can stay. She stops editing reality to make it easier to love you. And once she reaches that point, something else happens that surprises even her. At first, there is silence inside. Not peace. Silence. For so long, her mind was crowded with other people's needs, moods, wounds, expectations, crises, and emotional weather that she forgot what her own inner voice even sounded like. Her identity got wrapped around being useful, being needed, being the one who understands, fixes, calms, supports, absorbs. So when she finally stops doing all of that, she faces a strange and frightening question. If I am not here to save everyone else, who am I? That moment can feel like standing in an empty house after years of noise. It can feel like loss. It can feel like a void. But do not miss what is really happening. That emptiness is not death. It is space. It is room. It is air she has not been allowed to breathe in years. For the first time in a very long time, she is not arranging her life around someone else's comfort. She is not shrinking her truth so another person can stay relaxed. She is not checking the emotional temperature of every room before she speaks. She is beginning to build a life that actually fits her own soul. And that changes the way she moves, the way she answers, the way she looks at things. She becomes calmer, yes, but less available. Softer in spirit, but firmer in access. She is not performing care anymore. She is protecting peace. And there is a massive difference between the two. If you have ever watched her become quiet like this, then you know. It is not distance for drama. It is distance for survival. A lot of people misunderstand the grief that comes next. They think she is mainly grieving the relationship, the breakup, or the loss of the person she loved. But often that is not the deepest pain. The deepest pain is that she is grieving herself. She is mourning the woman who kept abandoning her own needs to keep everything else alive. She is grieving the years she stayed too long, explained too much, forgave too easily, and accepted too little in return. That kind of grief is heavy. It is physical. It lives in the chest, in the throat, in the long stare at the ceiling late at night. She looks back over the years and finally sees the numbers clearly. She sees how much of herself was spent in tiny daily pieces. Not in one grand sacrifice, but in constant little ones. One silence here, one excuse there, one more chance. One more compromise, one more moment where she swallowed the truth to keep things from breaking. She gave herself away so slowly that even she did not fully notice it happening. And now she is left facing the reality of time she cannot get back and versions of herself she will never fully recover. But listen carefully because this part matters. That grief is not a pullback to the past. It is not regret for leaving. It is not a hidden wish to return to the same pain with better lighting. Through that grief, she gains clarity, hard-earned clarity. She wakes up, not into hatred, not into bitterness. Bitterness is still a chain to the past. What she becomes is aware. She trusts what she feels again. The instinct she ignored to keep the peace now becomes sharp, clean, and impossible to silence. She can sense dishonesty quicker. She notices imbalance earlier. She sees the pattern before the excuse even arrives. She is not paranoid. She is practiced. She knows what it cost her not to see clearly the first time. When she comes out of that fire, she does not simply move on. She changes the whole system she lives by. If you are the one who lost her, hear this clearly. She is not coming back for the old version of the story. She is not interested in convenience dressed up as love. She is not looking for a temporary comfort hit because she feels lonely one night. That used to work on the older version of her, the one who still tied her value to how much she could hold together. But that version is gone. She has done the hard inner work of learning that her worth does not rise and fall based on whether someone chooses her. She knows now that love without respect is not love. That connection without safety is not connection. That effort without return is not devotion. It is depletion. And once she learns that deep in her body, not just in her mind, she becomes very hard to fool. Her heart is still open, but it is no longer unlocked for everyone. She does not want the appearance of love. She wants the real thing. She will not stay in something that looks beautiful from a distance, but feels emotionally empty up close. That is the standard now. And many people do not know what to do with that version of her. The world was very comfortable when she was endlessly giving. People loved her most when she poured and never asked what it was doing to her. Friends liked it. Partners liked it. Society liked it. A woman who empties herself for everyone else is easy to celebrate because she makes life easier for the people around her. But a woman who begins saying no, who sets limits, who asks for balance, who refuses one-sided love, suddenly gets called cold, difficult, hard to deal with. She is none of those things. She is simply done lying about what hurts. She has stopped being a giver without boundaries and become the guardian of her own peace. She now understands that her empathy is valuable, not common, not cheap, valuable. She no longer hands it to people who toss it around carelessly. She no longer offers deep access to people who only know how to take. She has raised the standard, not because she thinks she is above others, but because she finally understands what it takes to stay alive inside her own spirit. If you are standing in the silence she left behind, stop telling yourself this is something she did to you. Stop writing yourself as the victim in a story where you ignored the warning signs for years. You need to face what really happened. The way she was treated made the old version of her impossible to keep being. If she had stayed the same, she would have had to keep disappearing in small, painful ways every day just to make your life easier. She did not leave because she stopped loving. She left because love without oxygen becomes suffocation. She left because at some point self-betrayal became more painful than letting go. And that choice was not cruel. It was rescue. It was the moment she realized that if she did not choose herself, no one else was going to do it for her. Right now, you may not feel the whole loss. Maybe your pride is still protecting you. Maybe your ego is telling you it was not that serious. Maybe part of you even feels relieved that the pressure is gone. But wait, time has a way of stripping excuses off the truth. In the months ahead, the absence will begin to speak. You will feel it in quiet rooms, in empty moments, in the strange cold that comes when no one is there to notice the little things, to care before being asked, to listen with full attention, to make emotional space feel like home. Then you will understand something hard. What she gave was rare. It was not a standard feature you can expect from anyone at any time. It was a real gift, and you treated it like it was ordinary. That is the part that often arrives late. You start to realize the world feels colder without her kind of presence in it. Not because she was loud, but because she was attentive. Not because she controlled the room, but because she warmed it. She listened in a way that made people feel real. She noticed small shifts in mood. She remembered details. She gave care before it was requested. She made people feel held. That was not accidental. That was not basic. That was a choice she made again and again, and you benefited from it so often that you stopped seeing it as special. You thought it would always be there. You thought someone like her could be replaced by the next person, the next connection, the next distraction. But warmth at that level is not easy to find. It is built from intention, depth, patience, and emotional courage. And once it is gone, the world can feel strangely sharp. This is where many people finally understand what they lost, but by then the understanding arrives too late to repair what neglect already broke. Because the woman who once would have listened to your apology for hours is no longer standing in that place. She has gone somewhere deeper. She has built a quieter life, a cleaner inner world, and a stronger sense of what she will and will not allow. And that is why guilt, panic, pleading, and sudden affection do not work the way they used to. She is no longer starving for scraps of care. She is no longer easy to pull back in with a few emotional words. She can tell the difference now between true change and fear of losing access. And once she sees that difference, she does not unsee it. So if you are watching her from the outside now, wondering why she seems calm, why she seems steady, why she is no longer reacting the way she used to, understand this: the storm already happened. You just were not paying attention when it was still happening inside her. Now, what you are seeing is not the breakdown. It is the aftermath. It is the version of her that made it through. And if you are the woman living through this shift right now, listen closely. This part is for you. You may feel guilty. You may hear people say you have changed, that you are colder now, that you are harder to reach, that you are not as available, not as soft, not as endlessly understanding as before. Let them talk. Change was necessary. You are not becoming cruel. You are becoming careful. You are not losing your heart. You are learning how to stop offering it to people who treat it like an open door. For a long time, you were taught that your value lived in your sacrifice, that being good meant being endlessly accessible, endlessly forgiving, endlessly useful. But now you are learning the difference between loving and erasing yourself. That lesson changes everything. You are learning to give from overflow instead of emptiness, to care because you want to, not because you are afraid of disappointing people, to help without handing away your nervous system, to stay kind without becoming available for damage. That is not hardness. That is maturity. That is wisdom with scars. And yes, it may feel strange at first. Boundaries can feel like guilt when you were trained to live without them. Saying no can feel wrong when you spent years saying yes to your own pain. Protecting your peace can feel selfish when you were praised most for self-neglect. But keep going. Stay with the discomfort. It is not a sign you are doing something bad. It is a sign you are doing something new. You are giving your empathy a home now. A real home, not a public place where anyone can walk in, throw their chaos around, and leave you to clean it up. You are building walls, a door, a lock, not to shut love out, but to let respect in first. That matters more than you know. And the stronger you become, the more clearly you will see that peace is not something you owe away. You are stepping into a version of yourself that does not need to bleed to prove she cares. You are learning that no is a full sentence. You are learning that peace is not selfish. You are learning that love without reciprocity is not noble, it is damaging. You are learning that protecting your energy is not rejection, it is responsibility. And as this new self grows stronger, something beautiful happens. Your kindness does not disappear. It becomes cleaner, more intentional, more sacred. You stop throwing emotional gold into places that treat it like dust. You become slower to trust, yes, but deeper when you do. You become more selective, but also more real. You no longer confuse chaos with passion or exhaustion with commitment. You no longer call anxiety love just because it keeps you busy. You begin choosing what feels steady, honest, mutual, and safe. And that kind of shift does not just change relationships. It changes your whole life. It changes the way you wake up, the way your body rests, the way your thoughts sound at night, the way your future begins to open. So if someone says you are different, let them be right. You are different. You are no longer built around surviving other people's emotional hunger. You are no longer trying to earn rest by suffering first. You are no longer available for one-sided stories where your role is only to understand and endure. You are becoming whole, clear, grounded, free. And the people who truly value you will not fear that change. They will honor it. They will meet it with respect, not resistance. They will not ask you to become smaller just so they can stay comfortable. They will love the strength in your softness and the wisdom in your limits. That is the kind of love that can stay. Everything else is just noise. So do not mourn the old version of yourself too long. Thank her. She carried you here, but she is not meant to lead the rest of your life. This next chapter belongs to the woman who finally chose herself and meant it.